Stop messing around, stop fooling around, stop delaying, stop procrastinating. Get up, get out, get it done. Everything is possible, nothing is a problem, and anything can be overcome. I just get my ass up out of bed, I get my shit together, and I get out and I start the fight. And that will transform you from a mere mortal into a superhuman being. I've never, ever, ever met anybody who told me that they got rich watching their IRA or their 401k.
Welcome to the Daily Cash Flow. My name is George Robson.
Welcome to the Daily Cash Flow. Hey George, hey everybody, I'm Peter.
Peter, how you doing? I feel like it's been a little while since we've seen each other, actually.
We were doing some other things the past few weeks, shooting with some other people. I'm doing good. I'm a little beaten up today. I still have a smile on my face, but you've heard me talk about how business and my days I equate often to fighting and fights and battles and
been a big
that kind of thing. It's been a little bit of a battle today. But here we are, and I enjoy this, so I'm happy to be here with you. I'm doing all right.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect segue to start us off, because.
With what?
Well, I wanted to talk about exceptional obstacles, and I'll tell you what I mean. I meant that at this point in your career, you kind of have a team that is an extension of yourself. You have a lot of systems in place that you've developed to take care of obstacles that come up. I was wondering, what are exceptional obstacles that come up that you feel like you have to really be hands-on, you have to deploy your particular expertise and touch, and what tactics do you deploy? Business related, yeah.
I worry about a few common things regularly. So I worry about time management. I think that's an obstacle for me, and I try to get a grip on that every day. And the way I do that is I just stay organized, and I write everything down. I deploy my Google calendars, and I manage off of that, and I have my to-do lists and my critical schedule and my short-term and long-term dates, and I just stick to that stuff because I find time management can get out of hand, and if I don't keep a tight grip on it, and I have to keep the tight grip on it. I'm going to be my own best judge of how I feel if I feel like time's slipping away or if I need to reschedule things or move things around. So I do that.
And I would imagine the better business is, the more challenging that is, to manage your time.
Look, it's a busy world we live in. Everyone's busy as hell, right? So it's like, you gotta be disciplined with your time management. I think I have to be. So I work hard at that. And I don't have anyone else do that for me. I do it. I can't have my team or assistants or people do that. I find for my business that developing new pipeline is an obstacle. Maybe a challenge is a better word. I don't know that it's an obstacle because I do it. I accomplish what I want to accomplish, but I'm the one that has to do it. It's not something that I farm out to someone else. I develop my pipeline. I fish my pipeline. I farm my pipeline, and I'm the one who's extracting opportunity from whatever my pipeline is. And if I have a broad pipeline, because the pipeline bandwidth will shrink and expand. If it's an expanded pipeline, I usually feel pretty good about things. If it's very tight and there's not a lot that's flowing, I get a little stressed, and I try to work hard to expand it back again. And I don't put that task on anybody else. So I work hard on pipeline. Capital ties in with that. If there's an opportunity that comes along and I can't afford to do it myself with my own money, I syndicate out and invite partners to come co-invest with me. So now I have a capital issue that I have to address as well as a pipeline issue. So I'll be the one to solve that. I'll call and reach out to my investors and partners that I've been working with for years and just fill those gaps and solve those issues pretty quickly. But it's something that I do. I don't farm it out to anybody else. I don't rely on anybody else. I don't want to be constrained by anyone else's needs, timeline, or requirements. I'll just take care of it.
I would imagine it makes you more efficient, more able to carry out those things quickly and efficiently because, it's at the source.
I think so, but I'm very sensitive to being constrained by someone else's situation. So if I farm out to equity firms or brokers or bankers or in our business, there's a lot of people that present themselves as sources of capital, that they can take your deal, your opportunity, package you, and they can go out and find you money for your deal, which is great. But the downside of that, the other side of that coin, is that now I have to live with whatever those rules are, and I never love that. I'd rather, I'd rather just stick to what my format is, what my platform is, what my terms and conditions are, and everybody can make a decision. Everyone always invests with me, so I'm not really constrained by people saying, well, I'll invest, but you have to change these 20 things in a document because I don't like what it says. I mean, I never get that from people. And the reason I don't get it from people is all the traction and experience and history that I have in the business. My track record speaks loudly, and when I have an opportunity that I present to my investors, they respond with a resounding yes, I'm in, where do I sign? And that's really what I'm looking for. I can't be in a position where I have to have a separate set of documents for this guy over here than I do for these people over here because he's special. Now I got to manage multiple relationships with investors in the same deal. It's too much aggravation, too much mental damage, brain damage, not my thing. So for those reasons, I won't farm out or go third party when it comes to filling a capital need. I just do it myself. I find risk management to be something that I think about a lot as a challenge. Again, not an obstacle, because you deal with risk management by getting insured properly and managing your insurance properly, and then managing your assets the right way. So with risk management, the two biggest things that I think keep me up at night are an unprecedented act of Mother Nature and an unprecedented act of terrorism. I think you've heard me say those things before. And I'm constantly thinking about, what do we do if it's Hurricane Sandy times 100 rolls through and it takes out the entire eastern seaboard? And what do we do if the dirty bomb goes off in New York City and takes out 300-mile radius, or whatever those things can do? I mean, I hear it's pretty scary. So I think about those things, and I wouldn't leave that stuff to chance. I would want to manage my risk and my insurance policies, and I do that, so I don't farm that out. So I think just staying on top of the things. I mean, there's no tactics that I deploy other than I just stay on top of it, like I do with anything, like anyone would do with anything. Just stay on top of it, mind your P's and Q's, read it, work at it, respond to it, work. It's work. That's what my work is.
Give it your attention.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any magic tricks to dealing with those obstacles for me. I just got to open up my eyes and get to work. Everyone has different challenges and obstacles in their lives, and whatever yours may be, just got to work at it, pound through it. Don't run from them. If you need to deal with them, you got to deal with them. And I deal with them.
If we come up with any magic tricks, we'll be sure to share them on the podcast. Success brings a lot of criticism. It's kind of by nature one of those things that draws criticism. I was wondering, what kind of criticism have you gotten over the years, and how do you deal with that?
I've had a lot of criticism over the years. I mean, everything from verbal critiques to verbal attacks to physical attacks to, look, it's human nature. We all do this. Human beings do this. What we don't understand, we criticize. We talk about it. We'll share our thoughts of it, however you want to sugarcoat it, but it's criticism. Every Sunday we see this when people's losing football teams get them so frustrated they end up saying, oh, the coach should have fired that guy, he should have drafted this guy, he should have ran this play. Everyone should have, could have, would have, right? Everyone's telling the coach what to do.
It's easy to coach when you're not on the bench.
Yeah, they know better, right? Everyone knows better. And I've been confronted with that for a lot of my career, where people felt like they knew better than me. Why would you invest there, Peter? Oh, I would never invest there. I mean, I remember when I started in New York City, I was buying what I could afford in neighborhoods and on blocks that I thought were good, that were improving, that had good locational characteristics, that met all my criteria, but I would buy there because I could afford it. People would say, oh, why would you go there? I remember when I was a kid first starting off in New York City investing in real estate, and there was this unwritten rule: don't go above 96th Street. Don't buy anything above 96th Street. No, don't do that. Because 96th Street, you get above that, it's like the cutoff, and above it, it's like Fort Apache, it's dangerous, it's less desirable, whatever. And I'm thinking, Man, it's all the rock of Manhattan. It's all Manhattan. What's it? So I'll go to 97th Street. Does the rule say anything about going to 97th Street? Because I think 97th Street's pretty nice. But the rule says don't go above 96th Street. So I'd go to 97th, 98th, and then a few years later it was don't go above 116, don't go above 125, don't go above 135. Well, I was buying in all of those neighborhoods when the rule was don't go above 96th. And people would say to me, "Oh, why would you buy there? Why don't you buy instead in Soho? Why don't you buy on 57th and Madison?" Why the fuck would I? I can't afford it. Those neighborhoods have already done what they're going to do. There's nothing I'm going to bring to the conversation. I mean, I've heard from employees, "You run your company all wrong.
Really?
You should do this. You should do that." And, I'm always listening to my employees. I'm always listening to partners. I listen to everybody. In that situation that just popped in my head with this one employee, he said, "Oh, you run your company all wrong." I mean, he was an angry guy and he showed up to work angry and interfaced with our customers angrily and interfaced with other people in our company got a chip on his shoulder. He was just an angry guy. So, it didn't surprise me that he would say that I was running the company all wrong. He didn't last very long with us. And I couldn't change him or retrain him or remold the way he thinks to fit in better with our ecosystem. So he didn't last long with us, but I've had that kind of criticism. How do I respond to it? I try not to. I don't really respond to it. I mean, if you're responding to what other people are saying about you, then you're going to start having problems. I really don't care what other people think or say about me. I wake up every day and my goal is to try and do the best I can, and I do that. And win, lose, or draw, if I do the best I can, I feel like I've done okay. And over time, if you have more wins than losses or draws, that's what success is. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So, I never really concern myself with criticisms or the like. To me, it's a waste of time at this point for me. It's funny enough, though. I remember recently, George, having a conversation with you about social media.
Yeah.
And here I find myself, I'm not being critiqued on social media, but I look at the numbers, how many followers you have, how many people you're following, and I get all wrapped up in it, and I feel like I care so much about what these numbers are, and then I have to take a deep breath and calm myself down, put my feet back on the ground, and say, "Oh, it's just social media numbers, and really, who cares?" Because I'm doing this anyway, regardless of what the numbers are.
Right, you got to keep the eye on the prize kind of thing.
Yeah. So, there's criticism all around. I think you have to not care what other people say about you and not care about what other people think about you, unless you're seeking that from them. I'm not really seeking anybody's opinion of me or critique. I'm always open to hearing it if they want to give it to me, but I'm not really looking for it.
Yeah, that goes back to the first thing you said, which is you don't like to be adherent to someone else's rules and someone else's rubric. And so as soon as you're, following someone else's critique, then that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Thanks, yeah.
So I wanted to ask, if you had a time machine, you could go back to December of last year or January of this year, do you think you would have done anything differently had you known that the pandemic was on its way, that the protests were on its way, that this year was going to play out the way it was going to play out?
I wouldn't have done anything differently.
You had
I have to think about it for a second, but
totally,
I wouldn't have done anything differently. What would I have done differently? Would I have changed my business, how I was set up? Would I have made different decisions financial? I mean, I wouldn't have done any of that. And as I'm thinking about it, people that would have been in a position to have had to do something differently perhaps were out of their lane or on the fringe with something, and maybe the shit starts to hit the fan once you get into 2020 a little bit, and maybe the people that are on the fringe or walking the line have to pull back and retract a little bit, keep things a little tighter, more to the core. I mean, that wasn't me. My business was doing what it was doing. I was doing what I was doing in my personal life. I mean, all of that was pretty solidly grounded in December and January of 2020. And I think that's what allowed me to get through 2020 so far this year, what's happened so far this year. I've gotten through it pretty well. I know it's been a really fucked up year and tough year for everybody in a lot of different ways. But for us here, we've really managed to get through things. And I think the reason we've been able to get through things is that I was never out of my lane. I mean, I was always just sticking to the fundamentals. repeating the successful things that have led me to where I am today. And I wasn't on the fringe with anything. I wasn't walking a fine line. You know, when you're walking a fine line, external events can push you one way or another. But when you're firmly planted on the ground, external events aren't going to really cause a significant problem for you. Now look, you have to evaluate and assess and make decisions, but I don't think the 2020 events have made me look back and say, boy, I would have done anything differently.
And you had mentioned the risk management early on, that's something that you do, place your time on and, work on that.
Well, sure. Already, 2020 was an unprecedented act of Mother Nature, right? Yeah. So I was worrying about that, though I didn't foresee a pandemic.
Obviously.
But I felt like we were financially grounded enough. We were grounded in our principles, in our goals, in our mission. I mean, nothing's going to derail that stuff. So if you have good principles, if you have a solid mission, if everyone's working towards the same goal and objective from the beginning of the year to the end, things that happen outside of your office, of your company, of your orbit of immediate people, I mean, it's not going to derail you. And it didn't derail me. And looking back, I can't think of anything that I would have changed. Maybe I would have gone out west to go skiing a little earlier so that I had more time on the mountain, because the mountain closed down in March when I was out there with my family.
I've been hearing that a lot, maybe travel a little bit more,
Yeah, but shit, who wanted to travel? I mean, we knew the pandemic was upon us in our world, and really in December was when Wuhan started sending out the reports of a virus. Then January picked up steam, February picked up steam. It finally came here in February, we think.
Right, we're not sure. Yeah.
So, maybe I would have gone skiing earlier, but other than that, I don't think I can really point to anything that I would have done differently. That's a good question. I think everybody might benefit by asking themselves that.
Yeah, and kind of maybe augmenting their plans for the future depending on what their answer is. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it strikes me as something that those who were maybe out of their lane a little bit would have answered differently than those who never left their lane.
Yeah, so find your lane.
Yeah.
What do you measure that others don't? And is there anything?
I measure everything.
Everything?
Generally speaking, I'm a data guy, so I love data. I wish there was more data more readily available to me. And it sounds funny in 2020 to say that, because obviously we're in an information age and there's so much data everywhere. But I mean, in my real estate business and my buildings and my interaction with residents, and I get sort of the regular suite of data, but I love measuring everything. And I measure everything. I mean, professionally, I measure everything. I'm constantly looking at reports, wanting to change what information is given to me on reports. I'm constantly surveying employees, customers, vendors, and suppliers. I'm like on SurveyMonkey, sending that stuff out, and I want to get the responses back, and I want to get the data in, because I want to look and see how it plots out and how I can do regressions to extract certain things. And so I love working with information and data, and so professionally, I think I'm measuring as much as possible, and whatever I'm not, I'll find it out tomorrow, and I'll start it then. But I measure a lot.
Were you always that way?
I think I was, once I learned the benefit of it, and I remember learning the benefit of measuring at a couple of different points in my life. Number one, my older brother, who's a business guru and older than me, and so I would watch him in business, and he went to business school, and he would share things with me like, oh, you can't manage what you don't measure. And I was way younger than him, and I'd be like, wait, what do you mean? And then after that seed was planted and I became a young kid in business, I would start to see the benefit of getting reports and measuring how are we doing today, how did we do last month, how did we do this year versus same point in time year over year last year. I mean, I'm always asking those questions, and I'm hungry for that. So professionally, everything. I think personally, the thing I measure the most is sort of an annoyance or aggravation factor with people or places or things. So if I'm with someone and the conversation's going on too long, or my eyes gloss over, or it gets too complicated, or if a business situation gets too complicated, it's like I have this little like guy that pops up on my shoulder and he starts whispering in my ear, get the fuck out of here, or like try and change it once, and if you can't, move on. Like, I don't tend to stick around with things that I find aggravating or annoying. And I know that aggravating and annoying are sort of abstract pop culture words that we use, so I'm not trying to sound like a kid in school talking about something. But I mean, in business, I feel like things should be simple, and I feel like what we do in our lives should really be simple, and they should serve a simple purpose, and they should serve our needs, and we should be able to meet our goals with these things that we surround ourselves with these people that we surround ourselves with. And if things get too complicated or just aggravating, or they get drawn out, or they get sloppy, or I pick up on it pretty quickly and I just move on. So I think I'm measuring the aggravation factor a lot. Yeah. And
yeah, I mean, it's something that we talk about a lot now, is things that we can add to our lives, complicating our lives more. And that kind of leads me to the last question I wanted to ask, which is there anything that you've gotten rid of in your life, habits or behaviors or routines, that's benefited you? Like, have you gotten rid of anything?
I mean, anytime you remove something that's not great, it benefits you. So it's all whatever, I don't know what I'm about to answer to your question, but whatever I'm about to say, the removal of it definitely benefited me. So now let me think. Have I removed anything in my life? You know, from a very young age, I remember learning from my mom how you got to be upbeat and positive, and I never wanted to be around people who were Debbie Downers or negative or self-deprecating or, you know, any of that stuff. So I don't know that I really removed them as much as I never really included them in the first place, but to the extent that I did have any of that energy around, I probably have removed it over the years. And I think anybody will tell you that when you remove negative energy in whatever form it may be, a person, a place, a thing, it's only good for you. Yeah. I remove non-advancing, non-critical things all the time. There's a big one that pops into my mind, and I was never much of a TV guy. I never watched a lot of TV. I recognize the importance of it, and sometimes I watch sports on TV. That's not what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about like TV shows.
Flipping through.
Yeah, lately it's been the news media for me. I find the news media to be completely fucked up on all sides of the fence, and no matter where you are in the political thought spectrum. I mean, I really want news media to give me facts without bias or agenda. You know, I wish there was some way for me to have someone report to me, I'm here, this is what's happened, these are the numbers, and moving on, we'll go to Bob over there, that's what's happening with him, those are his numbers. I'd love that, but I don't get that. Instead, what I get, with at least with TV news media, is within 4 seconds, I know what your agenda is, and I feel like you're spinning it and trying to mentally manipulate me while you're giving me some bit of current event bits that are happening. So I've cut that out. I don't watch Netflix, which is a bummer because I think it's cool, and I think the quality of the programming on all these different content delivery platforms is really great. But I don't have the time for it, I find, so I just don't do it. You know, there's people in my life that are big TV watchers, and they watch a lot or they watch everything. And sometimes in certain social situations, people say, "Oh, what's your favorite Netflix show?" I'll be like, "I don't know." You know, because I've seen about 4 seconds of 20 different Netflix shows, and I don't really know anything. I mean, I wish I watched all of, I don't even know what the fucking name is, I
don't even know, which one? There's so
come
many
on,
big,
come on, with the
big
Phoenix and the cities and the murders and the wars and the battles and the...
Oh, Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones!
There you go.
I wish I would have watched Game of Thrones. Everyone tells me how great it was. The Wire, everyone says, "Peter, how could you not have watched that?" I wish I would have watched these great shows that people have told me to watch over the years.
It takes time.
It's such a time. Look, the things that come first for me come first. So if I don't have my business stuff dealt with, if I don't have my personal stuff dealt with, if I don't have my health and wellness stuff dealt with, I'm just not going to get to TV shows or to shit like that. And the stuff that's most important to me has to come first, and it does, and I deal with that stuff first. And I enjoy it. It's not like a sacrifice. I don't feel like I'm sacrificing anything. I don't feel like I'm a worse person for not having watched every Game of Thrones episode. And I totally dig how people get into it, and I wish one day for me that I'll have the time to do that. Maybe it's just now I don't have the time to do it. But I cut out TV. I ask myself, well, what am I not going to be able to do if I do this thing here? Like, what am I not going to be able to do if I watch 100 episodes of blah, blah, blah on Netflix? Well, I won't be able to work as much and achieve as much with my business. I won't be able to spend as much time with my family because I'm going to be glued in front of the TV. I won't be able to do yoga or whatever it is I want to ride my bike. I won't be able to do that stuff because I'm glued in front of a TV watching.
Yeah.
So
every yes is a no to something else.
Yeah, it really is. And to me, there's a real sacrifice that I'm making if I choose to watch TV.
You ready for some Zest Quest, Peter?
I am ready for the quests of the Zest, George. Give me something good today. Your last few have been,
We'll start off light, and then I like the last one, so we'll see how you think about these. So first one is favorite cliche. Is there a cliche that you feel like
it is what it is?
It is what it is. I love that. Yeah.
I don't even know what the fuck that means. Everybody uses it. How many times do you hear that every day? I mean, I hear it so much. Yeah. Throughout the course of a week, everyone's telling me that, especially when they're trying to explain to me something where there's a big question mark over it. Well, how did we get here? What the fuck? How did this happen? And someone will say, well, it is what it is. What? Right. It doesn't mean anything. Please stop saying that.
Well, I guess that's what it's for, right? It is what it is. It just means that you're literally stating being.
I'll tell you what it is. Yeah. You don't know what you're talking about, so you're searching for some way to say something that sounds halfway decent so that you can move on and get to another topic. Yeah. And I'm not going to let go of it. So don't even say it to me. It is what it is. As soon as you say that to me, I'm going to go to the person sitting next to you and engage with them because you're now out.
So now I'm realizing this is your least favorite cliche.
my least favorite. What was the question?
So what is your favorite cliche?
My favorite cliche.
Because I think that's a much harder question.
It's my least. It's my.
Because cliches are often, they feel cheap, they feel overused, but some of them are true. It is what it is. We can write off the list of being true. But.
Yeah, I don't. It is what it is the one that definitely bugs me the most.
Comes to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. And last question: what are 1 to 3 brands that you really stand behind, that you love, that you dig, and are there any brands that you hate?
Brands.
Yeah, brands.
Consumer brands.
Consumer brands. Yeah.
I'm not really a brand guy.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me think about it, George. Yeah. Been driving BMWs for a long time.
Yeah.
So maybe that is one.
Hell yeah.
But I'm a little disappointed with where their product offerings went for the next year. And so I'm thinking about leaving the brand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to get this over to BMW.
They stopped making my car, and I want to get my car again.
Right.
And I can't. And the one that they put in its place, don't really love it. Yeah. So I may be on to a new brand.
All right.
I feel really deficient answering this question for you because I come from the son and grandson of merchants and retailers, where brands were very important to our family, and I should be more brand conscious.
I mean, maybe do you think that's why you're not that way? That you grew up around so many brands, and that
hey, I mean, Rolex is the king brand of watches,
right.
And I recognize that. I am not wearing one, and I could care less if you wear one or you don't. Read me the question one more time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sounds good. What are 1 to 3 brands that you really stand behind?
Okay. The stand behind is the part that I have a problem with.
Okay, cool.
So I don't know that I stand behind any brands because I don't have any brand affiliation or brand loyalty. I'll tell you what brands I'm most impressed with, coming from the age group category that I'm in. I'm so impressed with things like Q-tip and Kleenex, right? Because what do we say? Hey, pass me the cotton swab. We don't say that. We say, pass me the Q-tip.
Band-Aid.
I love that. Band-Aid. I love that. And I have so much respect for those products that then evolve into brands, because that's a very difficult thing to do. It's sort of the ultimate thing that as a maker and marketer of product that you want to achieve, no matter what business or industry you're in.
To own the category.
Yeah, if you can own the category. I had this conversation with some people in our office the other day. We were talking about social media and we were talking about advertising and marketing, and they were questioning why I was making certain decisions and why I was putting us on a certain path. I said, hey, I want people to think, when they think I need a place to live or I want to have fun in the state of New Jersey, at the Jersey Shore, I want them to think Rent Jersey Shore, right? That's our New Jersey brand, right? That's our brand here. That's what we branded our office at. Now, sure, we're landlords, we're real estate owners, and we market and lease apartments for rent. I mean, that's the business we're in. And most people in that industry don't have a brand name or don't call it anything other than, BCB Equities or, RJB Development Corp or, something like that. It's usually the initials of the two guys that own it, and, they have some fancy sounding name. I called ours Rent Jersey Shore, and that's a brand that I developed and wanted to build up to 20 years ago was when I bought my first building in coastal New Jersey. And I said, oh, well, here's an area that has a lot of apartment rental buildings, and wouldn't it be cool to aggregate a lot of them in this tightly confined area, and you could build a brand. You could actually call it something. What would I call it? Oh, Rent Jersey Shore. And so I respect very highly when producers and marketers of a product, no matter what it is, can achieve ownership of a concept or an idea, and I certainly try and do that. I don't know that I'm loyal to any brand, or nothing stands out for me in my life, but the Kleenex Q-tip example, Band-Aid examples, they're great examples. There's many more.
Yeah, but being the champion of your category.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's something, to do that, you have to be excellent, you have to be thorough, you have to be detailed, you have to be comprehensive. All disciplines which I identify with and which I try and employ here at our company. But it's good stuff when you can achieve that. It's how you stand out, it's how you differentiate, and if you can get to the point where people say Q-tip instead of cotton swab, man, you have something significant that you own an idea. I mean, when you can own an idea, it's not just a product, but an idea or a concept, it's a very powerful thing.
When people Google George, and I'm the first one that comes up, I'll
Right.
know that I've won.
Right. What do you think? I'm trying to think of the George that's got the highest brand equity. I'm going to say George Foreman's got good.
That's true. He does have a lot
George.
of name recognition. He also has like 6 children named George, so
really?
it helps with SEO.
Really? What are some other George? George Washington.
George Washington, I would imagine, comes up pretty high on that list.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to search that and put that in the show notes.
2020. This year it was George Floyd.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right. Well, Peter, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
George.
it, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, George. Hey, George.
Hey, Peter.
Are you feeling like a bit of a flower this week?
I'm always feeling like a flower.
Yeah?
It's gray out, and I am wilting a little bit, but the sun is on its way. I look forward to it.
I'll check in with you next week about your floral arrangements.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Thank
Peter.
you, everybody.